We're in the kitchen today. It's not very aesthetical at all. Kitchen review. Really echoey in here, so it's probably a really bad idea because I've just realised that now. I've realised my mistake. Today I'm going to the cinema to watch the new Dune film, the highly anticipated Dune film. I've been waiting to see this for quite a while now. I actually read the book in preparation for this film just because I knew Denis Villenueve was doing it, and I know that David Lynch had attempted it before, and Alejandro Jodorowsky had tried to make a film about Dune, and all these interesting directors trying their hand at this book. I just thought, well, this story, I just thought, well, it must be an interesting book, so I read it. It's been about a year since I finished reading it. The plan was for me to have read the book by the time the film came around, because it was supposed to release last October, I think. So I read this book for no reason. I just read all the Game of Thrones books, and then I decided I'll read a different book. And I read Dune, and it was a really nice surprise. This is a fucking great book. Obviously, I don't really know that much about books. I've just read the Game of Thrones books, which are fucking awesome. And I've read this book and most of the second Dune book, Dune Messiah. Unfortunately, my memory on this is a bit hazy since I did finish it a year ago. But from what I do remember, it was an absolute fucking delight. I'm inexperienced, I don't really know how to review books, but bear in mind, this was in 1965 or 1968 when this came around, before The Matrix, it says here, before Star Wars and Ender's Game. Okay. It was a very revolutionary book. There's shit in here that's so like Star Trek level of predicting what technology would be like. On paper, the plot of Dune is quite simple, but what makes the book for me is all of the inner monologues and thoughts that the characters have in the book, and how the writer, Frank Herbert, gets that across. This is full of some fucking soul-searching, philosophical, introspective, deep introspective sort of thoughts and meditations that the characters put themselves through. It's all about becoming the most enlightened you can be and not acting on negative emotions. It's hard to really put into words. From what I've heard of Carl Jung, it kind of feels Jungian. It's an adult book, it's not for children. So the thoughts that the characters have are very important to the story of this book. So it's going to be interesting seeing how this new film adapts these thoughts. I hope they don't just have dialogue where they say it. They can't just have dialogue where they just state how they feel. Because without all these thoughts, it's a very simplistic story. It's set on the planet Dune, or Arrakis. It's a desert planet, barely any water. I'm pretty sure there's no water. I can't exactly remember, but so scarce water. The way it's written, it's so visceral. You really get into this world of just being dry and hot and just thirsting for any morsel of moisture. And I started reading it in summer 2020, and there was a huge heat wave then, so it was perfect. I would just go outside of my garden and read a bit of Dune, and it was like really fitting. You really just get in the mind of the characters. It's the best book I've ever read in my adult life, and that's only including this and the Game of Thrones books. But still, it's a fucking dank book. I get the hype. There'd be times when I was like reading through it and be like, hang on, what the fuck did that, what was being explained there? Because the thoughts are so intricate, and like the philosophies it's trying to get across. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not that smart a person. I can only understand so much, but this is like, fucking hell, what did that person just say? What was even fucking described there? Might have not even picked up on the actual ideas of the whole thing. There's so much good stuff about being a responsible leader. Paul is on the side of the oppressed. He teams up with the Fremen and they take revenge, and usually that's like, you know, the Empire, the rebels versus the Empire. The rebels destroy the Empire. But this is like, it's an adult book, like I said before. It goes into how Paul has to be careful he doesn't lead like a jihad across the entire universe. Like, okay, I'm fueled by my revenge. He's like so aware that he's so angry because of what the villains did, and this is the main villain is Baron, and he has all these different troops. It's hard to explain, I can't remember it all. But he really struggles with his own self, and he has to keep himself in check almost. This book is almost aware of the phenomenon of the oppressed becoming the oppressors. As in, they take revenge, they take over, they topple the tyrannical institution or the tyrannical force. But then, because they're fueled by violence and revenge themselves, that they've had to embody that to get there, they become the new tyrants. And there's so much cool stuff about that, which obviously like a simplistic story like Star Wars won't really go into. I'm not trying to fucking shit on Star Wars. Star Wars is fucking sick, but this is like trying to be dead introspective. There's just so much cool philosophy in here. Like, Frank Herbert had a very vivid understanding of psychology and philosophy and history, and that's how he predicted, well, how he made a pretty cool prediction of what sort of things could be going on in the future. But yeah, different planets. It's obviously got all the stuff for the sci-fi people, but it is can be quite hard if you're expecting like a normal adventure. But there is still that there. There's still that immersion. It's a great book. It's a really good book, so I'm really excited to see what happens in this new film. I've got to say that the trailers I've seen haven't been particularly reassuring. It does look a little Americanized, but again, I have faith in Denis Villenueve because he did the second Blade Runner. He did the new Blade Runner film from 2017, which was fucking astounding. I like that a lot more than the first Blade Runner. He's a very subtle director. He knows how to make these films, so he seems like the perfect fit. David Lynch tried to make a Dune film in 1982. He claims that he didn't have enough creative control. It was more like the studio that interfered or something. He was still like fairly up and coming then. I'll believe him, sure, it wasn't his fault, I guess. But I watched that after reading the book and that was fucking awful. I really just did not like that film. That is easily David Lynch's worst film. It's just a shit film in all regards. It's like prequel level shit for me. They literally have like voiceover narration for the thoughts. That's the only really way to do it, and it's just kind of really weird and like unintentionally funny. The way they interpret things about how certain characters use the power of words and mannerisms just is interpreted ridiculously literally. I don't know, it's just like, again, it's a very introspective, philosophically rich book, and I hope the film reflects that. This new film. I mean, it's not the end of the world. We've still got the book if this film's shit. This doesn't really matter. I got a leftover takeaway. Had a Chinese takeaway last night. I didn't eat all the chips, all these soggy, cold chips. It's not the end of the world though, is it? Still got the book. It's like when people say the new Star Wars films are being shit. Okay, fair enough. You've still got the 3 original ones that you all love, so what a big fucking deal. Just stop watching after Return of the Jedi. Sorry for all the echoes in this stupid kitchen. So yeah, I'll be driving over to the cinema today and watching Dune. Let's hope I like it, baby. Here we have the clothing that I'll be needing to wear for this expedition outside to the cinema. Apologies for its scruffiness, but you know, I don't go out much. Let's get into this, baby. Such a fucking lovely day. Well, looks like we're all suited up and ready to go. Yeah, baby. Of course, before you attend any theatre-going experience, you must always relieve yourself at your bathroom first, so you don't have to go in the middle of the screening. Oh, come on. Oh, lovely. I've got my keys. Let's go outside. Yes. Amazing vlog. I'm in my car, ready to drive. We're gonna go to the cinema, yay! The film starts at 20 to 3 and I'm setting off now at 2. It is about 35-minute drive, really. You can clear it in 30 probably. So yeah, wish me luck. Yeah! After a strenuous drive, I've made it to the cinema complex. It's a pretty cool thing. I've arrived well on time. Adverts start in like a couple of minutes, but they go on for 25 minutes. I can just fucking chill out, go and get some popcorn. Let's not give the geo guessers anything to go off. I don't want to have my location tracked down. See you in a bit. Hey, we're back. I've just seen the new Dune film. What the fuck? I'm gonna wait to get home and do a proper review. But all I'm gonna say is, go into this film like you would The Hobbit, the first Hobbit film, or the first Lord of the Rings film, because it's a trilogy. That isn't a spoiler. At the opening title it says Dune Part 1, and it goes off the Part 1 of the Dune book. So it ended much sooner than I expected it to, and I think it would just go down better if everyone knew that it was a trilogy and that this isn't going to be a complete story arc. So now that's addressed, I'm going to get home and I'm going to review this film for what it is. Cinema going experience, it was alright. Had some popcorn. There was this woman like stretching her arms out every 5 fucking seconds near the end. I think she was bored. I might have been the only fucking person who... Oh, sorry about this. Might have been the only fucking person who actually liked that. Well, I'm actually looking around to see if anyone's in the cars like watching me like, what is that guy doing? Anyway, you're like a right narcissist when you're fucking filming yourself. I think there was like a couple next to me. I think the guy was getting like a hand job a few times because I just kept seeing movement there. Yeah, go into the film like you went into The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings Fellowship, you know? Anyway, see you in a bit. Okay, so now I've had some time to properly process the film, I can review it. Let's just go over a few of the basic features first. The performances seem to be very American-y from the trailer footage.
Where the fear is gone, only I will remain.
That did get me worried a few times, but every performance in this film is solid. They were all believable, very somber and serious, but there was also a nice amount of charisma in there as well, so it wasn't just completely a bunch of boring arseholes. Timothée Chalamet was a perfect choice for Paul Atreides. He's a more than capable young actor, he's already proven that. Not just another generic teen actor, but like a more personable, artistic performer. He seems to do well at picking good creative projects. Another big worry for me going into this film was how they'd pull off the extensive amount of special effects that were to be expected having read the book. And I'll say that through very simplistic filmmaking techniques, director Denis Villeneuve makes the vast majority of what's on screen actually believable, and once that was achieved I could actually immerse myself in the film. I was really happy and relieved that the film made me able to do that. I feel like I'm always going on about environments and climates in films in my reviews, but they are really important aspects to get right for your film to be the visceral experience that you want it to be. Like, if the director's gotten those smaller details down, that indicates that they've probably applied the same level of precision to all the other elements of the production. But especially because the weather and climate is such a big part of the story of Dune, it was an even more important thing to get right. Rest assured though, each environment in this film is given its own pulse. The filmmakers managed to breathe life into the sets and locations through the application of many different types of weather climates. It all gives each scene its own personality, just through the way it uses fog, wind, rain, water, blowing sand, mist, or whichever environmental feature was appropriate in a given scene. I love these little details in films because they complement not only the cinematography of the film, but also the immersive capacity of the story. Denis Villeneuve is a very atmospheric director and he carries all of that talent into this film. And all of these aforementioned weather features complement the film further by aiding the CGI shots. They're blended in with the CGI spacecraft and technology, so those CGI shots are made to be more visually believable. The world feels lived in and grounded, not 100% of the time, but enough for you to get involved in the story. By the time you do see some CGI that is a bit more obvious, it doesn't really matter. There was this one shot in particular from one of the trailers that just looked awful, and that got me really concerned about the film. But that shot came so late in the movie anyway, I was already immersed and I didn't give a shit. However, the Thopters look fucking awesome. Again, with the weather, realistic wind and like blowing drifting sand concealed the unpolished CGI, or what could have been unpolished CGI. I was really grateful that I could actually enjoy those Thopter moments that I remembered from the book. Thopter moments. Also, there was that thing when you know the surface of the earth is so hot that like heat waves start emanating off of the surface, and it makes this blurred wavy effect. You see it above candles. That was also applied to the shots of the Thopters in the desert, which made it even more cool. I do have to step back for a minute and say that I'm obviously unsure as to how it will look on the TV, but for now I'm satisfied. There was this little mouse that I really liked. It was CGI, but there was a close-up shot of its ear with like sweat, a little tiny bit of sweat trickling down its ear. That was just a cool little detail to focus in on, because every bit of moisture on the planet of Arrakis is like a delicacy, is really important. My favourite shot of the whole film, the most gorgeous shot of all, was when the House Atreides space convoy were descending down from the guild ship down onto Arrakis. That looked fucking astonishing, and it got me really excited for what was to come. You might also be pleased to know that this isn't a Hollywoodized big science fiction action blockbuster that's trying to appeal to a broader audience. It's closer to a big budget A24 film. There's a lot of subtle choices in the presentation of the future environments and the future technology. A lot of instances where the music was absent from certain scenes, which I was so grateful for, because I was worried that it would be all Hollywoody and generic, like, oh whoa, oh whoa, that's pretty cool, man, whoa. I can't precisely describe what I'm on about, but just generic sci-fi film vibes. I'll try and find a good scene of what I mean, of like cheesy shit. However, when there was music, it was by Hans Zimmer. Yay. So the score was really good, unique. Maybe one day I'll come to love that score. Maybe one day I'll come to love this film. Again, with the fairly unconventional nature of this film. It's a slow, brooding story, so that might turn some people off. And that's fair, but based on the subject matter of the book, I couldn't really see it going any other way. It's still really captivating. I guess it's just sci-fi for adults, so bear that in mind, lads, when you go and see it with your girlfriends. It's for adults. And this all brings me to my next point. I mean, it doesn't really, but fuck it, I need a segue quick. This is a very faithful adaptation of the book, almost scene for scene, and that's great. I'm not saying I would have been opposed to changes, but they opted for the faithful route, and they did a very good job at that. It's certainly better than that fucking 1982 film. Infinitely better. A lot of the visuals were exactly how I imagined them when I was reading it. Did I mention that I read the book? Yeah, I don't think I did. Yeah, I read the book. Paul and Timothy go hand in hand, there's no better fit for that role. The costumes were close to how I imagined them, the spaceships, the planets, a lot of the characters, even the very ways in which the scenes unfolded, all very similar to what I had imagined in my head. So that was really cool. All the casting's great, not like the old one with fucking Sting and Big Ed from Twin Peaks as Stilgar. This was the first time I'd gone into a film like this having read the book first. Actually, not true, the first one was this stupid fucking war film, Journey's End, and I had to read that in English at school. Quick, back to Dune, quick! Another big thing the filmmakers had to get right for this film was the depiction of the voice. So the voice is this special, I wouldn't say superpower, it's this specific intonation used by the Order of the Bene Gesserit, which apparently I've been saying wrong, I've been saying Bene Gesserit all this time. If you use the voice to tell someone to do something, like give them a command, they are physically compelled to do it. It's essentially mind control. There's a lot more to it than that, I mean at least in the books there is. But anyway, they managed to depict the voice in a way that wasn't completely stupid and laughable, because it is a fairly goofy concept. It works in the book, but I wasn't sure if it would translate well on screen, but it did translate well, so I guess I'm very wrong in that assumption. The Thopter and the Spice Collector looked almost dead on to what I had mentally pictured. The worms were good, we didn't see too much of them, but they were good. You've seen the trailer with the huge one. Again, going back to the weather and climate, it's this huge CGI thing that's partially concealed in darkness. I'm not sure where I stand on the shield suits. I'd want to see how good they look when watching this at home. Despite all of this enthusiasm, there is still that huge gaping issue of this only being the first half or the first third of the story. I'm not sure how they're going to play this. And without spoiling anything, this film did end at a very anticlimactic moment for me. I want to see the finished product before I make my judgments on how good this new Dune adaptation is. It doesn't feel as complete of a movie as, say, The Fellowship of the Ring did. Because by the end of Fellowship, you're like, holy shit, that was great, but I'm satisfied for now. I'm ready for a break. But by the end of this new Dune film, I was like, oh right, is that it? Oh shit. I was just a bit stunned, like, okay, alright. A good way to compartmentalise this film, I guess, is you can see it as more of a pilot episode of a TV show, like a really long pilot episode of a TV show. Because it is the kind of ending you'd expect to see at the end of one of those. Not a big budget 2.5 hour film like this. But overall, I really don't want to say too much right now. I want to wait for the full picture. But that being said, we don't even know if we're getting another film. Another one hasn't been confirmed, because the jury's still out on how well this will perform at the box office. Bear in mind, Denis' last film, Blade Runner 2049, was a commercial failure, and I'm also not sure if this film in and of itself stands on its own well enough for people who haven't read the book to get invested in the story. I'd completely understand it if people didn't gel with this film, if they didn't connect with the characters, or all the world building was a bit too much for them or a bit too confusing. I'm not sure what I'd think of it if I hadn't read the book. I reckon I'd be a bit confused. But all of that being said, it's definitely still worth checking out. I implore everyone to go and see it and make their own mind up. It's still an interesting experimental piece. My biggest worry was that it was just going to be mediocre, which it definitely isn't. Anyway, just go and watch Dune. If you're going to see any film at the cinema right now, that's the one to see. Okay, I'm done now. Get me out of this review. Get me out of this review now. Subscribe. Fucking subscribe. What the fuck? Just fucking subscribe, you fucking twats.